April 4th, 2019, 8:12 a.m. suburban Indiana. A frantic 911 call shakes the quiet of a spring morning. Dispatcher: 911, what's your emergency? Caller, gasping: my neighbors, something's wrong. Their front door's wide open and there's blood. A lot of blood. By the time authorities arrived, the Smith residence on Meadow Creek Lane was silent. Too silent. Inside, they found a scene so horrific that seasoned detectives were left speechless. In a town where people rarely locked their doors, the Smiths were what others aspired to be: smiling, well-liked, and seemingly perfect. But the truth hidden behind those walls was darker than anyone could have imagined. Greenfield, Indiana, was the kind of place people moved to for peace. Neighbors knew each other. Kids rode bikes until sundown. And at the center of one cul-de-sac sat the Smith family: Andrew, 42, an accountant with a quiet demeanor; Melissa, 39, a part-time school counselor; and their two children, Lily, 13, and Noah, 10. They were friendly, normal, always smiling at church, said neighbor Carol Jensen. Melissa baked pies. Andrew coached Little League. We never imagined anything could be off. But behind the smiles, there were cracks, ones nobody could see. March 2019, 3 weeks before the incident. Lily told her school friend that she hated being home sometimes and wanted to just disappear. Teachers noted her withdrawal, but chalked it up to teenage angst. Andrew's co-workers recalled a sudden drop in his performance. He started forgetting deadlines, said Supervisor Greg Landry. Once, he left midday and never came back. And Melissa, according to her sister Hannah, had recently confided, I think Andrew's hiding something. I just don't know what. That April morning, police entered the Smith home to a scene that looked like a horror film. In the downstairs hallway was a trail of blood, thick, fresh, leading into the kitchen. In the kitchen was Melissa, face down, multiple stab wounds to the back and chest. A knife still lodged between her shoulder blades. We cleared the house, room by room. We were expecting to find everyone dead. We were half right. Lily and Noah were gone. Their bedrooms were untouched. No signs of a struggle. Andrew Smith was found in the upstairs bathroom, alive but barely. He had a deep wound across his neck, self-inflicted. A bloody razor lay in the sink. He was muttering something over and over. They were going to ruin everything. I had no choice. At the hospital, detectives waited. Andrew was stabilized but placed under psychiatric hold. In the meantime, the town panicked. Where were the children? Amber alerts were issued. Search parties fanned out across Indiana. Melissa's phone was pinged near a state park 2 days prior. And then came the hard drive, found inside a lock safe in Andrew's closet. It contained files that made seasoned cybercrimes investigators sick. Over 300 gigabytes of encrypted folders. Hidden cameras embedded in the home, including in the children's bedrooms. A digital journal titled Control, Obedience, Perfection. Inside were months of twisted entries. Andrew's descent into a world of dominance, manipulation, and control. He wrote about punishing Melissa for defiance, about training the kids to obey without question, about fearing Melissa would expose him. April 6, 2019, 10:47 p.m. Authorities received a tip from a gas station clerk 2 counties over. A girl matching Lily's description had been seen with a man, not Andrew, at a remote fueling stop. 3 hours later, a SWAT team descended on an abandoned hunting cabin deep in Hoosier National Forest. Inside, they found 13-year-old Lily and 10-year-old Noah, alive, filthy, and chained to the floor. Their captor? Bradley Knox, a name no one recognized. But then came the twist. He wasn't a stranger. Detective Reiner. He was listed in Andrew's contacts as BK, under the group folder, Solutions. That's when we knew this went deeper than just domestic violence. As the children were rushed to safety, Lily broke down in a child psychologist's office and said, Dad told us Mom was sick, that she wanted to hurt us. He said we had to go with Uncle Brad and stay hidden until it was safe. Andrew, it turned out, had cultivated an online relationship with Bradley Knox for over 3 years through dark web forums centered around control-based parenting ideologies. Knox, a disbarred child psychologist with a criminal record for child endangerment, had become Andrew's mentor. The goal? To remove Melissa permanently. Andrew had convinced Knox to help him re-educate the children after Melissa's elimination. Knox was to take them, hide them, and begin what he called obedience therapy. They had planned this for months. Andrew Smith was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, endangerment of minor, and unlawful surveillance. He showed no remorse. In court, he calmly stated, "My wife didn't understand the structure our family needed. She betrayed the order. I removed the threat." Knox pled guilty to multiple charges and was sentenced to life without parole. The children, traumatized and broken, went to live with Melissa's sister. Their names have since been changed, their whereabouts undisclosed. As for the home on Meadow Creek Lane, it sat empty for months until it was quietly demolished. Locals say no family ever stayed in it more than a night. Some say they still hear crying. Others screams. But the real horror? It wasn't what happened in that house. It's what was planned to happen. But this story isn't over. Because during the investigation, authorities discovered something else. Something buried deep in Andrew's digital archive. A folder labeled simply, Phase 2. What was it? And who else was involved? April 8th, 2019. 3:32 p.m. Greenfield PD Cybercrimes Division. A technician monitoring Andrew Smith's decrypted hard drive freezes. He slowly turns to his supervisor and says just 4 words. There's more than one. When authorities recovered Andrew Smith's hidden hard drive, they believed it to be the key to understanding a single man's descent into delusion and murder. But what they didn't expect was a network. Hidden behind 2 layers of military-grade encryption was a secondary archive. It wasn't about his family. It was about others. Code names, coordinates, video logs, digital schematics. At the center, a private message board titled Phase 2, The Fractured Doctrine. FBI analyst Diana Wolf. It looked like fiction, a manifesto, a plan for an ideological war against the nuclear family. But the content was disturbingly real. Among the files, logs of live video calls with other Fracture members, surveillance footage from homes that didn't belong to Andrew, initiation dates and case folders marked with children's names. Most chilling of all, a photo of 5 children in a single frame, none of them related to the Smiths, each marked with a timestamp and the words, "To be retrieved." Bradley Knox wasn't working alone. Evidence pointed to a loose, decentralized group operating on the dark web under the name Fracture. Their ideology twisted traditional parenting into something authoritarian and violent, fueled by warped psychology and an obsession with correction through collapse. Andrew Smith was only one of several active fathers. Another name surfaced again and again, Reverend Kane. No known identity, no IP traces, but his digital signature showed up in multiple files as the architect of Phase 2. FBI profiler Dr. Helena Ruiz. It wasn't just about control. It was about breaking children, rebuilding them into something emotionless. They believed family love was weakness, a disease to be cured. Of the 5 children in the to-be-retrieved folder, 3 were located safely. They were from different states, Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois, all under the age of 12. Each had some connection to a person in the Fracture network. But 2 were still missing. Elijah Carter, 9, last seen leaving a church after Sunday school in Lexington, Kentucky. Amaya Jacobs, 11, vanished walking home from ballet class in Akron, Ohio. Both disappearances have been active missing person cases for over a year, but there have been no leads. Until now, buried in Knox's cabin, behind a false wall, were 2 backpacks. Inside were Elijah and Amaya's school ID cards, toothbrushes, and clothing. Agent Julia Vance, FBI. That's when we realized they had passed through the cabin. But where they went next was something even we weren't prepared for. A recovered document called Baptism Protocol.pdf outlined a ritualized system for removal, rebirth, and re-education. In grotesque detail, It describes psychological tactics to dismantle a child's identity. Week 1, isolation and silence. Week 2, deprivation of name, then replacement with subject code. Week 3, forced confessions of emotional corruption. Week 4, obedience drills. It read like a manual, except it was real. Audio files found on Andrew's drive feature recordings of children sobbing, begging to go home, whispering lines like, "I don't want to be fractured anymore." April 11th, 2019, 2:13 a.m. Investigators unlocked a final video log, one that had been auto-scheduled to delete on April 12th. What they saw caused even hardened FBI agents to vomit. A grainy video, a concrete basement, a man in a white mask and black robe. Behind him, 2 children blindfolded. The masked man speaks. Fracture is not one man, not one house, not one family. We are legion. You took one of us. We will take 5 in return. Behind him, a calendar is visible on the wall. 5 dates circled in red. The first date, April 15th. For days away. The Smith home had been horrifying. The cabin, unimaginable. But what came next pushed the case beyond a domestic tragedy into a nationwide manhunt for a cult hiding in plain sight. Dozens of encrypted transactions were traced back to prepaid debit cards, delivery drops, and shell rentals. A network spanning 11 states, using code words like blessing, cleaning, and rebirth. And then they found the farmhouse. April 14th, 2019, somewhere in southern Missouri. A joint FBI U.S. Marshal raid on a property rented under the alias Kane McDonald. The place was abandoned, but the floorboards were stained with blood. Surveillance showed children had been there 2 days before. Pinned to the wall was a note. Phase 3 begins at the harvest. The soil is ready. And in the final encrypted cache from Andrew Smith's drive, agents discovered a list titled Seeds. Each entry was the name of a town, small, rural, isolated. The last name on the list? Greenfield, Indiana. Again, what was the true scale of the fracture network? Who is Reverend Kane? And how many fathers are still operating? As agents race to stop a larger plan in motion, the real question remains. Can the next phase be prevented? Or has it already begun? April 15th, 2019, 6:43 p.m. A family farm in Logan County, Kentucky. A father returns home from work to find the barn door open. He calls out. No response. Inside, 5 scarecrows hang from the rafters, but only 3 are made of straw. The other 2, they bleed. The clock had been ticking since the video warning. 5 children for 1 man, 1 taken down, 5 more in return. But by the time law enforcement decoded the final clues, it had already begun. The Seeds document, discovered on Andrew Smith's hard drive, wasn't symbolic. It was an itinerary. Each town listed next to a date. 5 towns, 5 days, 5 planned abductions. Greenfield PD, the FBI, and federal marshals fanned out across the Midwest. But Fracture's reach had grown. They weren't just hiding. They were evolving. April 15th, Logan County, KY. April 16th, Red Lake, Minnesota. April 17th, Grayson, MO. April 18th, Carthage, OH. April 19th, Redacted. Each location matched with missing children from previous months. But this time, they weren't just taking kids. They were sending messages. At each scene, investigators found something disturbing. A mask, identical to the one worn in the video. A child's drawing, always of a house on fire. And a Bible page, always Ezekiel 21. The sword is sharpened and polished, made ready for the slaughter. Then came the break. April 17th, Grayson, Missouri. A woman stumbled into a sheriff's station barefoot, bruised, and covered in dirt. She was 26-year-old Chloe Winters, last seen 3 years earlier in Tennessee. She had been one of them. Not a child, a disciple. Chloe. They told me I had been abandoned, that my parents were corrupted, that Cain gave me purpose. She'd been groomed by the cult at 22, indoctrinated into the harvest order, and assigned to prepare the children. She wasn't just a witness. She was a participant. But Chloe had escaped. and she brought maps. The maps led authorities to a sprawling 200-acre ranch outside Red Lake, Minnesota. Surveillance drones captured infrared signatures. Dozens of bodies moving underground. April 18, 2019, 3:09 a.m. Federal agents raided the ranch in a multi-agency sweep. What they found beneath, it would haunt them for the rest of their lives. A complex of bunkers, steel doors, crude drawings on the walls, stick figures in flames, children's shoes, name tags, tiny beds with restraints, and, in the lowest level, a mural, painted in red, likely blood. It depicted a tree, each leaf a child's face. At its roots, a name scrawled again and again. Cain, Cain, Cain. Chloe identified him. A man in his late 50s. Balding. Always wore gloves. Spoke in metaphors. A prophet, she said. Charismatic. Soft-voiced. Real name, unknown. Alias, Gideon Marr. Status, never caught. But there was one photo. Captured accidentally by a wildlife camera in rural Arkansas 6 months earlier. He was walking with a girl on a trail, holding her hand, smiling. The girl was later confirmed to be Amaya Jacobs, the missing 11-year-old from Akron. She was smiling too. Authorities recovered dozens of encrypted videos from the ranch's server. Most were corrupt, but one, time-stamped April 10th, featured a child speaking directly to the camera. Girl, if anyone sees this, my name is Amaya. I want to go home now. I thought this was heaven, but it's not. She begins to cry. Then a voice interrupts her off camera. Calm, fatherly, male voice. That's enough, my blossom. Back to sleep now. The screen cuts to black. That was the last known image of Amaya Jacobs. The final name on the seeds list was redacted from every shared report. Even among interagency teams, someone was trying to contain the panic. But an anonymous whistleblower posted online. April 19, 2019, final target. Prescott, Wyoming. Population, 632. A mountain town with one elementary school, one sheriff, and, as of that morning, 3 children missing. All from the same third-grade class. All disappeared between 8 o'clock and 8:20 a.m. All sat near the window. Outside, footprints were found in the frost. Tire tracks led into the woods. A 4th desk had a name tag not belonging to any student. Subject 112 ready. Back in Greenfield, Indiana, the original crime scene, something unexpected happened. April 20th, 6:46 p.m. Lily Smith, now in protective care, received a letter. No return address. Handwritten. Inside was a single page and a photograph. The letter read, "You are the first seed. Your tree will grow the tallest. We're watching. Soon you'll understand." The photo? A family of 4. A man, a woman, and 2 children. Not the Smiths. But behind them, barely visible in a reflection, in the window glass of a car, stood a man in a white mask. On the back of the photo, in faint pencil, was a date, July 4th, 2025. The Smith murders were only the beginning. The harvest is still growing. And as July 4th approaches, authorities fear the next phase of this plan may already be in motion, this time on a national scale. July 3rd, 2025, 11:57 p.m. A remote hilltop church in Montana bursts into flames. Locals report hearing a hymn echoing in the wind, sung not by one voice, but by dozens. The only word in the melody? Fracture. No bodies are found. Just a circle of children's shoes and one matchbook with the initials RC. For 6 years, law enforcement believed they had dismantled the network. That Andrew Smith was the monster, Reverend Cain was a phantom, and the fractured doctrine had died in the cold ground of Minnesota. They were wrong. It was never dismantled. It was waiting, and on the 4th of July it would rise again. In the weeks leading up to July 4th, 2025, the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit began picking up strange chatter from encrypted dark web forums. The posts were tagged with phrases like, "Reaping day approaches," "The fire sermon will cleanse the soil," "There are 12 now." 12 what? The only answer came in the form of a single image, anonymously sent to federal investigators. A map of the U.S. marked with 12 red stars, each corresponding to a different rural town. In each of those towns, over the past 3 years, there had been one child reported missing, always between ages 9 and 12, always labeled a runaway. All cases were quietly closed. But now, all 12 children were being mentioned again as the apostles. Desperate for answers, the FBI re-interviewed all known survivors, including Lily Smith, now 19 and attending college under an alias. Her testimony shocked investigators. Lily, it never ended. They write to me. They leave drawings. Sometimes I hear them in my dreams, and then I wake up and it's still playing, like it's inside the house. Another survivor, Chloe Winters, now in federal witness protection, admitted under questioning. Chloe, they're not just reactivating. Cain was always planning this. Phase 4 is prophecy. It doesn't start on July 4th. That's when it becomes visible. Then came the package, delivered to the Indianapolis FBI field office in a charred leather binder. No postmark, no fingerprints. Inside, the fire sermon, a 197-page doctrine allegedly authored by Reverend Cain himself. It outlined a spiritual movement, a belief that children must be burned clean of parental corruption, that society must be broken, child by child, family by family, until all that remains is loyalty to the father root. On page 83, a chilling prophecy. 12 embers, 12 apostles. When the 4 trumpet sounds, they will each light their flame. From coast to coast, truth will be revealed by fire. The first fire cleanses a house. The second, the school. The third, the church. The fourth, the nation. 7:09 a.m., Taborville, Nebraska. The home of a local school principal erupts into flames. The fire marshal finds a pentagram carved into the living room floor. In the ashes, a child-stuffed rabbit and a page from the fire sermon. 9:31 a.m., Black Hollow, Oregon. A school gym is torched. Firefighters find no fuel source. Surveillance shows a hooded teenager lighting a candle and vanishing. 12:16 p.m., Mason Ridge, North Carolina. A congregation flees their church mid-sermon as fire spreads unnaturally fast. On the altar, 12 masks, each with a child's name written inside. By 6 p.m., 8 fires had occurred across 7 states, each perfectly aligned with the red stars from the original map. In Washington, D.C., Agent Julia Rehnquist and cyber analyst Marcus Hale are running digital simulations, searching for patterns, anything that could predict where the final fires will land. And they find something. A 13th star, not on the map, but hidden in the data layers of the Fracture Manifesto. It doesn't represent a location. It's a date, July 5th, midnight. Rehnquist, if we misunderstood this, if the first 12 were symbolic, then the 13th might not be a fire. It might be a bomb. At 11:42 p.m., an unmarked USB drive is delivered to CNN headquarters in Atlanta. No return address, just a sticker that reads, "The blossom has bloomed." The video opens in silence. Amaya Jacobs, now 17, stares into the camera. She is calm, composed, wearing the white mask. She speaks slowly. "My name is Amaya, and I forgive my parents for what they were. Reverend Cain saved me, and tomorrow all of you will be saved too." She holds up a remote detonator. Behind her, a map is pinned to the wall. All 50 states. 12 are marked in black. 1, Washington, D.C., is marked in red. The screen goes black. 12 embers. One final flame. As midnight approaches and the nation celebrates its independence, federal agencies scramble to intercept a threat that may have been hiding in plain sight for years. Is Reverend Cain still alive? Has Amaya truly become a weapon? Or is she just the beginning of something far worse?